On January 13, 1999, Hae Min Lee, an 18-year-old high school senior, vanished from her school in Baltimore, Maryland. A month later, her body was discovered in Leakin Park, buried in a shallow grave. She had been strangled. Her ex-boyfriend, Adnan Syed, was soon arrested and convicted of her murder. However, this seemingly straightforward case unraveled into a complex web of mystery, intrigue, and unanswered questions that would captivate the public for decades. Hae Min Lee was a beloved student at Woodlawn High School. She was bright, athletic, and well-liked by her peers. Her sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through the community. When her body was discovered on February 9, 1999, the Baltimore Police Department quickly honed in on Syed as their prime suspect. The case against Syed was largely built on the testimony of his acquaintance, Jay Wilds, who claimed that Syed had confessed to the murder and enlisted his help in burying Hae's body. Wilds' testimony was bolstered by cell tower records that allegedly placed Syed near the crime scene. But even at the time, many found the evidence against Syed tenuous and circumstantial. The Syed's trial began in January 2000 and was rife with drama. The prosecution painted a picture of a jealous ex-boyfriend who couldn't accept Hae's decision to move on. They relied heavily on Wilds' testimony, which was inconsistent but damning. The cell tower evidence was presented as conclusive proof that Syed was in Leakin Park at the time Hae was buried, despite the lack of physical evidence linking Syed to the crime. The jury found him guilty of first-degree murder, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and robbery. He was sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years. For many, the case seemed closed. But beneath the surface, cracks in the prosecution's narrative began to emerge. In 2014, the podcast Serial brought Adnan Syed's case back into the spotlight. Hosted by journalist Sarah Koenig, Serial meticulously examined the evidence, testimony, and trial proceedings, revealing numerous inconsistencies and raising critical questions. Why was Jay Wilds' testimony so inconsistent? Was the cell tower evidence as reliable as the prosecution claimed? And perhaps most hauntingly, could Syed have been wrongfully convicted? Koenig's investigation captivated millions of listeners, sparking widespread debate and launching a movement advocating for Syed's innocence. The podcast didn't definitively claim Syed was innocent, but highlighted significant flaws in the case against him. Syed's legal team, bolstered by the public's interest, filed multiple appeals, arguing that his original trial attorney, Cristina Gutierrez, had provided ineffective counsel. They pointed out that Gutierrez had failed to investigate an alibi witness, Asia McClain, who claimed she had seen Syed at the library during the time of Hae's disappearance. In 2016, a Maryland court agreed that Syed deserved a new trial, citing Gutierrez's failure as a significant oversight. For a moment, it seemed Syed might finally get the chance to prove his innocence in court. However, the legal battle was far from over. In September 2022, a Baltimore judge vacated Syed's conviction, citing the discovery of new evidence that had not been disclosed to the defense during the original trial. This evidence pointed to two alternative suspects who had allegedly threatened Hae around the time of her death. Additionally, the cell tower evidence, once considered a cornerstone of the prosecution's case, was called into question due to technical inaccuracies. For the first time in over 2 decades, Syed was released from prison. The moment was both triumphant and bittersweet. While many celebrated his freedom, others, including Hae's family, felt justice for Hae had been undermined. In a dramatic twist, the Maryland Supreme Court reinstated Syed's conviction in August 2024. The court ruled that Hae's family had not been given sufficient notice to attend the hearing where Syed's conviction was vacated, thereby violating their rights under Maryland law. This procedural misstep meant the case had to be revisited, plunging Syed and his supporters back into legal limbo. The decision sparked outrage among Syed's advocates, who viewed it as a technicality overshadowing the substantial doubts about his guilt. Meanwhile, Hae's family maintained their belief in Syed's culpability, emphasizing their enduring pain and the need for closure. One of the most contentious aspects of Syed's case is the testimony of Jay Wilds. Wilds' account of the crime has shifted significantly over time, with details often contradicting both himself and the physical evidence. Despite this, his testimony was crucial in securing Syed's conviction. Wilds claimed that Syed had strangled Hae in her car and later showed him her body in the trunk. Together, they allegedly buried her in Leakin Park. But Wilds' changing narratives have raised serious doubts about his reliability. Some theorists suggest Wilds may have had more involvement in Hae's death than he admitted, while others argue he was coerced by police into providing a story that fit their timeline. Another critical element of the case is the cell tower evidence. At trial, prosecutors used cell phone records to track Syed's movements on the day of Hae's disappearance. They argued that the data placed Syed in Leakin Park, supporting Wilds' account. However, experts later revealed that the cell tower data was misinterpreted. Incoming calls, which were used to pinpoint Syed's location, were not reliable indicators of his whereabouts. This revelation casts significant doubt on one of the prosecution's strongest pieces of evidence. In recent years, attention has shifted toward two alternative suspects whose potential involvement was never fully explored during the original investigation. Both individuals had histories of violent behavior and connections to Hae. One reportedly made threatening remarks about her shortly before her death. These revelations have intensified calls for a deeper investigation into Hae's murder. Critics argue that the original focus on Syed may have caused investigators to overlook crucial leads. The case has taken a heavy psychological toll on all involved. Hae's family has endured decades of grief and uncertainty, compounded by the constant media attention and legal reversals. For Syed, years of imprisonment and the fight to clear his name have been emotionally and mentally exhausting. The broader community, too, has been deeply affected. The case has sparked heated debates about justice, race, and the reliability of the criminal justice system. Adnan Syed's case is not just a personal tragedy. It's a reflection of systemic issues within the justice system. From questionable police tactics to unreliable forensic evidence, the case highlights the potential for error and bias in criminal investigations. It also underscores the importance of media in shaping public perception and influencing legal outcomes. Without Serial, it's unlikely Syed's case would have received the scrutiny it did. While much of the focus has been on Syed, it's crucial to remember Hae Min Lee. She was a young woman with dreams and aspirations, whose life was tragically cut short. Her story has often been overshadowed by the controversy surrounding Syed, but her memory remains at the heart of this case. Adnan Syed's case is a haunting tale of love, loss, and the relentless pursuit of justice. It's a story that refuses to be neatly resolved, leaving lingering questions and divided opinions. As legal proceedings continue, one thing is clear. The mystery of Hae Min Lee's murder will remain an enduring chapter in the annals of true crime. As the legal battle rages on, many wonder what the future holds for Adnan Syed. Will he face another trial? If so, will the new evidence and alternative suspects be enough to exonerate him? Or will the court uphold his conviction, reinforcing the belief of his guilt in the eyes of the law? For Syed supporters, a new trial represents a chance to present the full scope of evidence, which could potentially clear his name once and for all. Yet, for Hae Min Lee's family, reopening the case only prolongs their anguish. They have consistently expressed a desire for finality, believing that the evidence presented at the original trial was sufficient to convict Syed. One of the most fascinating aspects of this case is the role that public opinion and media have played in shaping its trajectory. The Serial podcast not only revived interest in Syed's story, but also demonstrated the power of storytelling in true crime. Millions of listeners became armchair detectives, analyzing timelines, scrutinizing witness testimonies, and debating the reliability of the evidence. This media-driven scrutiny also pressured the legal system to re-examine the case. Syed's release in 2022 and the subsequent reinstatement of his conviction in 2024 highlight how public pressure and legal procedures can collide, sometimes in unexpected ways. The case has also sparked a broader conversation about wrongful convictions. Organizations like the Innocence Project have pointed to Syed's situation as an example of how systemic flaws, ranging from ineffective legal representation to prosecutorial misconduct, can lead to life-altering consequences. While the media's role in shedding light on potential miscarriages of justice is undeniable, it also raises ethical questions. Hae Min Lee's family has often expressed their discomfort with the widespread coverage of the case, feeling that their daughter's memory has been overshadowed by the sensationalism surrounding Syed. True crime content walks a fine line between seeking justice and exploiting tragedy. In Syed's case, the media frenzy has turned a deeply personal tragedy into a public spectacle. This raises important questions. How do we balance the pursuit of truth with the need for sensitivity toward victims and their families? And at what point does public fascination with crime become voyeuristic? The Syed case has had a ripple effect on the justice system, particularly in how courts handle post-conviction reviews. It has highlighted the importance of procedural fairness, as seen in the Maryland Supreme Court's decision to reinstate Syed's conviction based on a procedural error rather than the substantive merits of his case. This decision underscores the delicate balance courts must maintain between following legal protocols and addressing potential miscarriages of justice. It also raises concerns about the accessibility of justice for those who lack the public support or media attention that Syed has received. Furthermore, the case has prompted discussions about the use of forensic evidence in trials. The cell tower data, once seen as damning, is now widely criticized for its unreliability. This has led to calls for stricter standards in the use of forensic technology, ensuring that only scientifically sound evidence is presented in court. Another layer of intrigue in this case lies in the psychological profile of Adnan Syed. Supporters argue that Syed, a well-mannered and respectful teenager, could not have committed such a heinous act. His friends and family describe him as gentle and unlikely to resort to violence, even in the face of a breakup. Yet, the prosecution painted a darker picture: a young man consumed by jealousy and unable to let go of his ex-girlfriend. This duality in Syed's portrayal adds to the complexity of the case. Was he a wronged man, or did he harbor a hidden darkness? Psychological assessments and behavioral analysis could provide more insights, but such evaluations are rarely black and white. The ambiguity of human behavior only deepens the mystery, leaving room for speculation and doubt. But at its core, the case of Adnan Syed is a story of unanswered questions. If Syed didn't kill Hae Min Lee, then who did? Why were the alternative suspects not thoroughly investigated? What role, if any, did Jay Wilds truly play in the events of January 13, 1999? Even with decades of analysis, these questions remain hauntingly unresolved. Each piece of evidence, each testimony, seems to raise more doubts than it answers. The case's complexity ensures that it will continue to be a subject of fascination and debate for years to come. The Adnan Syed case is more than a murder mystery. It is a lens through which we can examine the strengths and weaknesses of our legal system, the ethical challenges of true crime reporting, and the human cost of justice. It is a story that refuses to fade, constantly evolving with new revelations and legal developments. As we await the next chapter in this ongoing saga, one thing is certain: the legacy of Hae Min Lee and the quest for truth will remain etched in the public consciousness. Whether Adnan Syed is ultimately exonerated or his conviction upheld, the case will continue to serve as a powerful reminder of the complexities and imperfections of justice.